Books are shorter. Video is faster. Tweets are, well, don't get me started. You see the connection here? Whether it's an interview, a meeting, a negotiation, a pitch, conflict resolution, and more, we need to find ways to communicate efficiently. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because when you need to know what to say when every second counts, and we all do, who are you going to call? Today's guest, that's who. Stick around and I'll tell you why.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Today's guest, Sam Horn, founder and CEO of the Intrigue Agency, is the author of 10 books, ranging from Kung Fu to Pop to Got Your Attention, that have been featured in the New York Times, on NPR, presented to Intel, Oracle, Accenture, and more than 500,000 people worldwide. As a consultant, she helps people connect dots forward and creates one-of-a-kind books, TED Talks, and messages that scale their income and impact for good. Glad to have you with us, and welcome to the show, Sam.
Thanks so much, Rob. I'm really looking forward to talking story, as they say in Hawaii, and sharing some ideas. Hopefully your listeners and viewers can put to good use.
Well, because I know you, I'm not betting against you. I think absolutely that's where we're heading. And you know, it's so nice to talk to you. We met some years ago, and we sidestepped each other. But I really, I've been looking forward to this conversation. I want to dive right in, and I need the listeners to understand my biggest challenge with Sam is the extent of her expertise. So we're going to dip into a few. And one of these, the talents that Sam has comes from professional speaking and that side of things. And for me, it was a merge of kind of my love of acting and my love of teaching. But what about you, Sam? Did you find speaking or did it find you?
What a wonderful question. I grew up in a small town, more horses than people. And so I was the 8th grade valedictorian for my very small school. Big deal, small town, right? And so I gave my talk to my dad. It was the little homily about the bird leaving the nest. And I asked him what he thought. And he said, "It's an okay talk." He said, "You just didn't tell me anything I hadn't heard before." And he was not being mean. He knew I wanted honest feedback. And he said, "If we're going to ask people for our valuable time and attention, it is our responsibility to be original." I said, "Dad, but there's nothing new under the sun." He said, "Sure there is. You know what the definition of original is? If people haven't heard it before, it's original." And so way back when, I really became an advocate and a proponent of trying to think of what could I say that people haven't heard before? What could I share that might add value? What kind of story could they relate to? What kind of insight could they act on? So that's how my speaking career got started.
Wow. I call them, I created something as I was preparing for you. And I noticed in my notes all these play on words that you have. And I started saying these are almost like Samisms. I almost wanted to hit a bell every time I heard one, including all the topics of your books and the titles. And I heard you speak a couple weeks ago, and it just makes me smile. Did that come from Dad, or is that just something that's followed you along?
I owe a lot to Reader's Digest, is because from this small town, we would go visit our granny. And, those were back in the days where it's like, go outside, play with your cousins, and don't come home until it's time for dinner, except if it was raining. And then we were banished to the back porch with Reader's Digest. Now, you may remember the one-liners, the quotes to ponder and the humor in the uniform. And even then, I would tear out ones that resonated with me. And so I have actually come up with a system so that as communicators, as speakers, as authors, coaches, etc., is that we can craft repeatable, retweetable phrases. Do you want to know some of those tips?
I would love to hear them.
Okay, so you know me, I like to juxtapose things. So unless people are driving, get a fresh piece of paper, put a vertical line down the center, and over on the left, put forgettable. Because there's a lot of infobesity out there, and most of what we hear goes in one ear, out the other. True?
True.
Okay, over on the right, put AIR, and it's going to be A for alliteration. And now, Rob, you know this. It's like if I say bed, toilet, and shower, best purchase, Dunkin' croissants, clunky, right? No, alliteration is when words start with the same sound. It makes us instantly eloquent. Bed Bath and Beyond, Dunkin' Donuts, Best Buy. And so if we want to be memorable instead of forgettable, just ask ourselves, all right, at the end of this meeting or presentation or blog or book chapter, what is the action I want people to take? What is the change I want them to make? And then A is for alliteration. Do we have time to share the other two tips?
Sam, I'm not cutting you off. You keep rolling. Normally I'm cutting people off and going, well, let me jump in. No, you got the floor. Keep going. I'm loving this.
Okay, so on your notes over on the right, put A for alliteration, put I for iambic meter. When you put it in a beat, you make it easy to repeat. When you put it in a beat, you make it easy to repeat. So look back at that sentence, that change you want people to make in one sentence. Now have some wordplay and tell the words fall together in this wonderful, repeatable rhythm. In fact, now this isn't just wordplay, it's word profits. The city of Las Vegas says that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Do you hear the iambic meter? Ta-dum, ta-dum, ta-dum. Has driven more than $1 billion in revenue for that city. So see, this is not silly wordplay, it's word profits. Ready for R?
I'm ready.
Okay, R is for rhyme because it's sublime, because it's remembered over time. Now, once again, people may think, oh, this is wordsmithing, big deal. Yeah, it actually can be the difference between whether people decide to work with you, whether they remember your project, whether they recommend you to someone. And here's an example. Is that years ago, the US government was really concerned about the incident of accidents and fatalities and injuries. So they mounted a $1 million public service campaign and they called it Buckle Up for Safety. Nothing happened, right? Because Duke Ellington said it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. So they went back to the drawing board. What they come up with this time, Rob?
Well, I'm still hearing the buckle up for safety. Buckle up. I remember the song that
See,
went around behind it.
see, Rob, see, then they put it in a song, gave it that beat, which helped. But the next time they came up with click it
Click
or
it or
ticket.
ticket. Yeah, there you go.
Now, here's the thing, compliance went up, injuries and fatalities went down. They actually saved lives. So I hope everyone watching this is thinking about a blog post they're going to write or marketing campaign or even the copy on their website. Here's the question. Can people repeat anything they heard word for word? Because if they can't, we're out of sight, out of mind. We don't
Right.
want to be out of sight, out of mind. We want to be top of mind. And coming up with these airtight sound bites is the key to be remembered over time.
Okay. And I can't tell you how important that is to me. And I say that because I speak to hundreds and hundreds of authors, much like you do. And sometimes they'll tell me, I feel almost guilty. All I've done is simplify a such and such and such or leadership, fill in the blank. And I go, no, never put yourself down for that because it can take years, sometimes decades, sometimes a lifetime to learn how to economize our words so that people can pick it up. So, there's a bar bet for you, Sam. I've always told people if you've never given a presentation in your life, and you're going to give it for the first time, do you think you're going to go a little too fast or a little too slow? And most people say, oh, I'm going to go way too fast. I've never spoken. I say, nope, you're going to go too slow because you don't have the economy of what you need to say yet. You haven't learned airtight. You haven't learned some of the things you're talking about. And it's when you get it, it's gold. It's what separates an author or a professional speaker to me from an amateur.
What a lovely word, economy. I think you know that I helped start and run the Maui Writers Conference
Yeah.
for 17 years. Writers Digest said it was the best writers conference in the world. And Elmore Leonard was one of our favorite authors and keynoters. And in the Q&A, someone in the audience put his hand up and he said, Mr. Leonard, he said, why do people love your book so much? And Leonard thought about it for a moment. Then he got on this big smile and he said, I try to leave out the parts people skip.
True.
So, and Rob, you and I both like unpacking it, the craft. So people don't just agree with it. It's like, how do I do it? It's like, once again, go back to this call to action, go back to the point you want people to remember and distill it. Now, how do we distill it into something that pops? How do we distill it so it rings and sings? Is we take out words that are clunky. It's like we look at it and we say it out loud. And if we say it out loud, don't you find that the mind will actually edit it? It will trip over it. It will feel long. It will feel clunky. Take out that word, it's probably tighter, and it starts getting that rhythm and it starts popping. That's when we're closer to saying something that people haven't heard before. That's when their eyebrows go up. That's when they keep listening or reading.
Yeah, I agree. And I will tell you that I just wrote a piece about basically how it's very difficult to communicate with a mirror. You know, that people think I've been talking to the mirror, I'm ready to go. And my son is a stand-up comic. I mean, when the comic is working on material, they'll take it to an open mic night. There might be 4 people out there, but they need an audience. I think they need adrenaline, quite frankly. And I don't know about you, but for me, one of the ways that I economize is I'll take a presentation to a Rotary Club or something smaller. I don't want to go to Bank of America with this one quite yet. And I keep a pad. And by the way, I keep a pad every presentation. But between that live audience and that adrenaline, that's where sometimes I'll find that economy. And I can't find it with a mirror. I can't find it in my car. I have to be under fire. I have to be up there.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I think that this advice to practice in front of a mirror is bad advice.
Right.
And it makes us self-conscious, right? And self-consciousness is the opposite of stream of consciousness. And so I think finding that zone where we're in our rhythm and the words are flowing out so fast we can't keep up, that happens when we walk and talk. So you and I have both been professional speakers for years, and I don't care where I am. If I've got a keynote in the morning, I'm up early and I'm either outside walking or I'm in the halls walking back forth because it mimics the speaking experience. As you know, we don't stay rooted to one spot. We own the stage by roaming the stage, by getting close to people, etc. And when we're walking, we are rehearsing much more like the actual event. And here comes a skateboarder, got to dodge it without losing my train of thought. It's like, that sounds clunky. No, that sounds cleaner. And we're animating and rehearsing in a way that is much more like the real thing, so that when we get up there, we've been there, done that before, and we kind of have home court advantage.
Oh, absolutely. I'll give you a little visualization I've always had, Sam, and I don't really tell many people about this, but I've always been don't like the word nervous. People, do you get nervous, Sam? Rob, do you get nervous? No, but I get anxious. I want to be anxious. I want to have some fire in the belly. Nervous is me sort of chewing my nails. I can't do anything but I want to have a couple of butterflies. My biggest concern is I don't want to be flat, so I want to have something. But my visualization has always been I'm like a racehorse, just sort of being walked around that paddock. I know I've got a race to run. I know what's going on. I'm anxious. I'm getting ready to get loaded. I'm getting ready to run the best race I could ever run in my life. But I need that quiet time. It's why I'll talk to my customer the day before, the night before, right after the presentation. But boy, right before a presentation, I'm typically nowhere to be found because I need to take me in that walk in that paddock a little bit. Just get ready.
I'm so glad you're bringing that up. And I hope that people watch the April 21st American Idol show, because of all people, Gene Simmons of Kiss was the mentor. Now, we may think of Gene Simmons and Kiss as like big hair, tight pants, tongue wagging, rock and roll, bass guitar licks. He was a brilliant mentor. And one of the reasons is he was talking about just what you're talking about, is that there were a number of contestants who were really uptight. And when we're uptight, we're up in our head. And you could tell because their body language was very closed. It's like fig leaf position, arms tight to the side, And so he said, you've got to let it go to grow. And he a couple times he actually shouted at someone. He went, hey. And he wasn't being mean, he was surprising them out of their rigidity. And so one of the things, as you know, is that if we immerse ourselves in the words instead of mouthing the words, we become in that lovely state of flow. In fact, I've got a lovely example. If someone's thinking, oh, I know that, but I've got this really big pitch coming up. There's a lot riding on it, or oh, this really big podcast or media interview. You want to know one of my favorite stories about how you can walk in crystal clear that you're glad you're here. Want
Love
the
to hear it.
story?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now you probably know Candy Lightner, and her daughter was killed by a drunk driver on the way to prom, and Candy spiraled into a depression. And after months of grieving her daughter, she thought, this isn't going to bring my daughter back, and she founded MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Right.
Now, at her very first event, there's almost 1,000 people in the room, and she's with her friend back in the wings, and she feels she's going to faint. And she turns to her friend and she said, I didn't sign up for this. She said, I don't think I can do this. Her friend went over to her purse and came back with her keys and handed the keys to Candy and said, Candy, if as a result of you sharing this message, one person out in the audience decides to turn over their keys instead of driving drunk, will it have been worth it? And that has become her mantra. And I hope that everyone watching or listening has some mantra that they center themselves in before they speak. It's, I'm here to serve, not to shine. I'm here to make a difference, not to make a name. You know, I will spread joy. So what's your mantra?
My mantra is a little bit on the joy side. It's to me, it's always about the audience, no matter what, whether I had a good flight, bad flight, nice cab driver, whatever.
Yeah.
I want people to walk out and say, that was time really well spent. And I also want them to say, that guy who just delivered that message didn't leave anything in the tank. If I can do that, if they can feel that about the message in me, I've done my job.
See, I agree with you, is that, and I hope everyone has a crystal clear sentence. And as you said, get some privacy. You know, there's a great story about Barbara Walters, and, you know, face it, she's been on camera for years. She's very comfortable in front of an audience, but this was a very big event. And so she was in the back of the room waiting to be introduced. And a friend she hadn't seen in years came up, Barbara, that she was talking. And then she heard applause and she realized she had been introduced and she didn't even realize it. She rushed up to the stage and she was really kind of discombobulated. And she really felt bad because she had not delivered, because she had allowed herself to not be mentally prepared. So see, we're talking about walking. We're talking about even if we're on a panel, even if we're in front of a large group, our eyes are on the person speaking. So we're not rude, right? We don't have, you know, we're not staring off into space. We don't have our nose in our notes, you know, no, we're looking at the speaker, but in our mind, we're getting our first 60 seconds ready. So when it is our turn, we can hit the ground running and we have people at hello. Is that part of your practice as well?
It is. I had to add one thing to it, for panel, by the way. And I got this one from my wife.
Mhm.
I missed the part, Sam. I wish you'd talked to me a little earlier about this. I missed the part about really turning and being in the moment with that speaker, and stayed sort of straight ahead and focused. Now, to me, focused is a very pleasant look, but to an audience, focus looks like I'm not the happiest camper up there. And if that, again, you asked me that question, what am I focused? If the audience perceives me that way, then that's the way I am. And so I have to remind myself a little note: A, turn, watch, and B, smile, be in the moment. You know, and
It,
that didn't come easily to me.
you know, and you know, it's interesting. We're talking about grace. And Rob, one of the things you and I talked about is having been professional speakers for a long time and successful, and our work speaks for itself. And you know, our best marketing is just doing quality presentations where people voluntarily decide they want more of it, right? Instead of
Exactly.
hammering away with sales messages, etc. And this is the type of grace where I cannot tell you how many programs I've been where the person speaking and the other four panelists are looking like this, they're staring into space, and it really is rude because the audience thinks you don't honor that person with your attention. So we can still be in our head mentally prepping. However, our eyes are on the person speaking so that we are modeling for the audience that they have the floor right now. Let's at least give them the honor of giving them our attention.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Just gave everybody a piece of gold on a panel. Let's you and I swap one for one. Give me, and then I'm going to move to the book. So this is because you and I could spend 3 hours talking about presentations and we would barely nick the subject. But give me, and I think it's almost like asking you for a favorite movie. It probably changes by the day, but give me maybe one of your most important lessons learned just as a professional speaker on stage. So not facilitation, delivery.
I tell you, let's go back to, if you're taking notes, please put on the left tell, because haven't we been told to tell people what we're going to tell them and then tell them what we told them? And I think that makes us a bore, snore, or chore. In today's short attention span world, goldfish have longer attention spans than we do.
Yep.
Essentially, what we're doing is like our audience is going, hey, the clock started ticking the second you started talking, and this is a waste of my time. So over on the right, put ask. And this is one of my favorite ways to start a talk. And in all my years as a professional speaker, I think we have an obligation to hit the ground running in the first 60 seconds. That means no bio, right? No Bette Midler. Enough about me. What do you think about me? Here's my credentials. They read them in the program, folks. So the introduction did it. We are not going to triple down on that. So you want the story to set it up, and then we'll unpack it?
Sure.
Okay. Now, once again, I hope everyone watching, listening has an upcoming communication in mind. Where is something and you're going to be making a request or a recommendation? Could be a meeting, could be a Zoom call, could be a presentation, could be a client. If you want to have them at hello, listen to the example, then we'll unpack it so that you can do it in 60 seconds. You can win their respect. So I think you know that I was the pitch coach for Springboard Enterprises, which has helped women entrepreneurs generate $37 billion in funding and valuation. So Kathleen Callender is one of my clients. She comes to me, she says, I've got good news and I've got bad news. I said, what's the good news? She said, I'm speaking in front of a room full of presenters and investors at the Paley Center in New York. I said, that's great news. What's the bad news? She said, I'm going at 2:30 in the afternoon and I only have 10 minutes. She said, Sam, you can't say anything in 10 minutes. I said, Kathleen, you don't have 10 minutes. You're going at 2:30. They will have heard 16 other presentations. You've got 60 seconds to get their attention. Well, this is what we came up with. Not only did she get their attention, she got their investments, and she was Business Week's most promising social entrepreneur of that year. So 60-second opening. Want to time me?
Yeah. I got you. All right. I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Did you know there are 1.8 billion vaccinations given every year? Did you know up to a third of them are given with reused needles? Did you know we're spreading and perpetuating the very diseases we're trying to prevent? Imagine if there were a painless one-use needle for a fraction of the current cost. You don't have to imagine it. We're doing it, and she's off and running. Now, Rob, do you know how she used to start not just her elevator introduction when people say, what do you do, or what is PharmaJet? She would say that it's a medical delivery device for subcutaneous inoculations. It's a what? She would have lost him at hello, right?
Right.
So here's the 3 steps. Number 1, and now please be thinking of what it is you want people to say yes to. Ask 3 did you know questions with startling statistics about the problem you're solving, the issue you're addressing, or the need you're meeting. And if you're thinking, where do I find these startling statistics? You just go to Google. You just put into search, what are startling statistics about this industry, this problem, and up will come things even you didn't know. And the quickest way to get skeptical people's attention is to introduce something they didn't know. Okay, second step, use the word imagine. One word, imagine, pulls people out of their preoccupation because they're not texting or thinking about what they're going to have for lunch. They're seeing what you're saying. Link the word imagine to 3 benefits of what it is you're proposing. Think back to Kathleen Callender. What were her decision makers thinking about? That's how we came up with a painless instead of a painful inoculation. That's how we came up with the one use needle. And that's how we came up with a fraction of a current cost. One sentence in a world of infobesity, and people are thinking, sounds good. Who wouldn't want that? Third step, you don't have to imagine it. We're doing it. Now you come in with your precedents and evidence to prove this isn't pie in the sky or speculative. This is a done deal. And here's the testimonial. Here's the article. All that can be done in 60 seconds. That's how to hit the ground running and get people's attention and respect.
Ooh. Well, now I'm going to fawn over you just for a second, but don't get too crazy on me now. First of all, in 4 years, I've never interviewed anybody who every single time I ask you a question, you don't just inspire me, you lay out a repeatable, predictable process. I think you may know I'm a former Xerox guy. We didn't do anything without a process, but it really taught you the value of a process. As they say, when you have a process, you have a way of measuring what you're doing. When you can measure it, you can fix it. So what I really cherish about what you do, Sam, is that, and I saw it 2 weeks ago, is that everything you provide is process oriented, meaning I hope you're entertained. I hope you're inspired. And boy, I hope I even motivate you. But I hope you implement what I just taught you without a process that's so difficult. So, A, I just want to tell you that's something I value that you provide. B, so glad that you nicked the tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them. I keep maintaining that's a wonderful model for an 11th grader. But what happened to what's in it for them? What happened to what they can expect out of you? Who are you, by the way? Where'd your information come from? Not only what are you going to talk about, how are you going to talk about it? Do we get involved? Is there going to be a quiz? There's so many things that model leaves out. And I'm not beating, well, I am beating it up, but it's really wonderful, but not if you want to step in front of a real live adult audience where things really matter. So that's two. I'm just took a couple of notes. And three is, I just wanted, I thought I was going to swap and give you an idea back when I said, give me something really valuable. But I almost don't want to throw it in, but I'm going to throw one in of when I asked you what would be one thing as a speaker. I could give you 20. I'm going to tell you one that I think is overlooked, and that is don't ever make an audience feel sorry for you. They're seeing a show right now. Me and things happen. We trip over a cord. We can't find this. The clicker's not working. The PowerPoint went out. Whatever. An audience will forgive just about anything. But if it looks like you're wounded, if it looks like, oh, I know I'm running short on time, if we start telling on ourselves, it takes them out of the movie. It takes them out of this wonderful theater that you've created. And it's very difficult to come back from that. So if you trip over a chord, do a little dance, look at that chord, say a few things, maybe come back and hit it again once or two times. If they see you smile, they're smiling. They don't care anymore. I wish speakers would be a little easier on themselves and realize not only is that kinder for you, but you're helping that audience out. That's the one you're paying attention to. That'd be a tip I'd throw back at them. That's just one for today.
What a wonderful piece of advice, because a lot of times, especially in today's world, we're told that our mess is our success. And people share about very personal, intimate challenges they've gone through. And I understand that. And I think that if that is done without a hook and hinge, and a hook and hinge are 3 you questions at the end of a story. Are you going through something like this? Have you ever had something like this? You know, what did you do to pull yourself out of it? Now we've made our story their story. Now they're relating to this instead of just dumping something happening to us, as you said, where people are feeling sorry for us, but they're thinking, and what does this have to do with the theme of our conference? What does this have to do with how I can be a better leader back at work? So I really believe this hook and hinge is the bridge between sharing something that we've experienced or are going through, and then asking in a way that people go, yes, that's going on right now. Yes, that happened. And then maybe even asking for their input so they have a voice and they get to be the sage on the stage instead of us just being a platform talking about the stuff that we've gone through.
Yeah, love it. In sales, we always learn to whiff them. What's in it for me? And I think you've been in your own language, sort of dancing around that topic a little bit, which is, somewhere in that first 40 seconds, we better hit that what's in it for this audience. And oh, by the way, if they're all excited to see you, you're never going to lose them because you remind them. And I think that's a piece that you've been sort of tacking together as we go along. As I said, I could stay here forever with you, but I want to swing over to your book, to this Talking on Eggshells. Okay. And so with this book, what can we say? I don't know how else to put it when we don't know what to say.
I am so glad you brought that up, because that was one of the motivations for writing this book, is that, I know family members who aren't talking to other family members now because they have different political beliefs. I know people who at work who feel like they're tiptoeing around someone because the least little thing is going to make that person angry. So over on the left, let's put down, don't know what to say. And first I'm going to say what not to say. Over on the left, whatever you do not deny a negative accusation. Now, you know me, I like to tell the story and then we'll unpack the process. I'm speaking at a leadership conference, and in the Q&A, a woman put her hand up and she said, Sam, why are women so catty to each other? Rob, I knew that if I said, I don't think women are catty to each other, I'm arguing her point. And so instead, over on the right, I pulled a Don Draper, put deny on the left, put Don Draper on the right. Don Draper said, if you don't like what's being said, change the conversation. So I just said, you know what I found? I think women are real champions of each other. Now, please notice, I did not deny the negative accusation, because when we do, we reinforce it. No, we switch the conversation to what we do want to go on record for. Now, there's another example of this in business. Over on the left, imagine if someone says, you don't care about your customers. And we say, we do too care about our customers. Now we're arguing with our customers about whether we care about our customers. So over on the right, say these 4 words. What do you mean? Well, I left 3 phone calls and no one's even gotten back at, the real issue. So that question reveals the real issue, and we can address that instead of reacting to their attack.
Outstanding. And if you don't mind, a lot of times, my main topic, I work with a lot of sales teams, and of course we sell a lot. I don't mean we're selling programs, by the way, folks. When we're up talking, we're selling you on the information because we really want you to take it, use it, live with it, implement it, have success with it. So yes, we are selling, but maybe a little bit differently than you think. But when you learn to sell and you get an objection, what's the first thing most people do? Exactly what you said. This product costs too much. No, it doesn't. Okay. Oh, you're right. Because you said it doesn't. It must not. No, the first thing we do is clarify. And clarifying buys us time to think. But a lot of times it gets at the real objection. And when you just in that example, Sam, when you actually role played that with yourself, the moment you clarified it or asked those 4 words, the person went a little bit deeper and began to give you the exact example that they're talking about with what, and that we can respond to. But this won't work for me. Oh, it should. What am I responding to? Maybe this happened 5 years ago. So let's talk about what happened 5 years ago. But it gets salespeople in trouble, and it gets speakers in trouble too.
You are so right. What you're bringing up is, as you know, what we call in the book words to lose and words to use. And there's reactions and there's responses. And these reactions actually cause resentment and resistance. And the words to use actually create rapport and respect. So want another example?
Sure.
Okay, now we've talked about speaking and we've talked about business and sales and leadership. Shall we throw in a parenting example there too?
Love it. I do them all the time. I think that's really smart, Sam. Yep, go for it.
Okay, over on the left, put the words can't because the words can't because are like a verbal door slamming in someone's face. If our kids say, hey, mom, can I go out and play with my friends? No, you can't. You haven't finished your homework. Mom, can I watch TV? No, you can't because you haven't done the chores. Then we often do what's called stacking, which is like, the rules around here. That TV doesn't go on until those chores are done. How many times do I have to tell you? When are you going to start? Off we go, right? Look what happens when we put the words on the right, sure, as soon as, or yes, right after. Instead of no, you can't play with your friends because you haven't done your homework. Sure, you can play with your friends as soon as you finish your homework. Do your math, let me have a look, then you can go out and shoot hoops. Yes, you can watch TV right after you finish your chores, pick up your room, take out the trash, then you can turn on. And I'll always remember a woman in a workshop, she just looked stunned, Rob. And she said, Sam, I'm a single mom. I've got 3 kids under the age of 10. It seems like all I ever do is tell them no. This is going to change the way I parent. And she was the one who said, this isn't semantics. It changes the whole dynamics of the relationship because instead of them seeing me as the one blocking them from what it is they want, guess who's now responsible for getting what it is they want?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah. That's brilliant. And again, it's another process piece. See,
Yeah.
these are all that I hope I hope everyone feels better after this podcast. You got homework, folks. And you're probably gonna have to play this a couple times so you can get it all down, just in case you're walking the dog and you're not putting notes on a pad of paper. Get home and get them down on the pad of paper. But what Sam Horn is, this is what a pro does. They take it. We all want you to feel good and inspire you. Trust me. And I've heard Sam speak. She will inspire you. But you're going to have a full pad of notes to be inspired with too, so you can go back and inspire others. Get this job done. That's why you picked up her book. That's why you went into her seminar with process maneuvers like that. I'm just such a big believer in it. And I wish more authors would be just a little bit more process oriented. It would certainly help them go from keynotes to workshops. Because the workshops, you better be process oriented. We're in there to change the culture of an organization right now with your processes. But that's what you're providing. It's amazing.
Well, it means a lot to me what you're saying, Rob. And there's once again a catalyst. There's a backstory and origin story, right? Is where we got clear about this, why we're a person on a mission about this. I had the privilege of working with Rod Laver in the tennis industry. Rod Laver, winner of Grand Slam champion,
Rocket
right?
Rod.
Rocket Rod, that's right. His left arm was about twice the size of his right arm. And so we put on national tennis camps. And I'll always remember the first time we did this, Rocket was at net and he was showing people how to volley. And he said, it's like this. They would go flop, 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 flop. And he would look at him and it's like, no, like this. Crisp, crisp, crisp. They'd go flop, 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 flop. See, Rob, it had been so long since he had even thought about the mechanics. At that point, they just came, it's just like, backhand spin over, cross court, is that he couldn't teach it. And we are now pinpointing as speakers and communication experts, sales leaders, our responsibility is to reverse engineer what we do in a way that makes it replicable for others. And that's why all my books, each chapter ends with a vertical line down the center. And over on the left, the beliefs and the behaviors that sabotage our success and the beliefs and the behaviors that support our success. Because if we codify it so it's crystal clear, if we make it alliterative, then it's a cheat sheet, isn't it? We can put it up on a refrigerator and now it keeps these ideas in sight, in mind, instead of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. And what you're doing now, which is I love, is building a job aid, is building something that goes a little bit deeper. What happens the day after tomorrow when I've attended your workshop or heard you speak? Now we have a job aid, something that we use and then kind of pull off of. And also, Sam, I'm sure you're familiar with those 4 levels of conscious behavior, the unconscious incompetent.
Yeah.
But with Rod Laver, that story you told, in a sense, illustrates, and people need to remember this. He is an unconscious competent. It's lovely to be there. It doesn't necessarily make you the greatest teacher. Uh, our job is to help you become a little bit more consciously competent. Obviously, we'll want you to develop some muscle memory so that we can get that personality and style. You don't have to think about every move, but the great ones always have a stop through conscious competency. That's how you get great. You can't just be a natural athlete, not if you're going to teach it in particular.
That's, I really think this is the crux of what we're talking about here is that at some point we start thinking about legacy and if we have achieved a lot in our life, if we don't write or if we don't speak or coach, it just all stays up here and it
Mm.
doesn't do anyone else any good up here. And so if we want to write about it, speak about it, or something like that, then our ability to ask ourselves, what comes naturally to us? What do we think is obvious? What do we say? Well, of course you would do it that way. Actually, in inverse proportion, that's part of our gift because, see, it's natural and obvious and easy to us. It is not to others. So, to unpack that is to say, all right, well, now someone may say, your meetings are always productive. They always start on time. They don't deteriorate into, how do you do that? Well, for most people would say, well, I mean, I just do it. No, no, no. Ask yourself, all right, when it starts on time, when did you get clear about that? Do you have a policy about that? Did you make an announcement about that? So what do you do if people start arguing? What do you say? Write down what you say because it may not have ever occurred to someone else. Oh, now I know what to say next time people get into it in a meeting. It is a joyous process, isn't it, Rob, to take what we've learned the hard way over years and share it with others so that they might have an opportunity to run with it?
You've nailed it. Absolutely. It's one of the joys. I've been blogging for 15 years and I love my blarticles, as they're called. I every 2 weeks I never miss. Somewhat compulsive. But in the last 4 years, since I've been able to start this podcast and speak to authors like you, Sam, and because there's always something to learn. It's the difference for me between a blog, which is very solitary, and I'm alone, and I'm happy with being alone, but it's me and my thoughts, and then picking up thoughts from other people and hearing the way they're expressing certain things. For instance, just the way I was, to me, connecting. Oh, she's clarifying. We clarify an objection. She's handling. To me, just to make those connections, it's joyous. It doesn't get old. It doesn't get old for me.
Hey, what you're bringing up is this is an intellectual Disneyland.
Yeah.
Catherine Graham of the Washington Post was asked what it was like, that job, and she thought about it, and she said something so profound. She said, to do what you love and feel that it matters. How could anything be more fun? Well,
Yeah.
that's what we get to do, isn't it?
It's a blessing for sure. All right, I got to get ready to say goodbye to you, although I could do 3 of these with you. And I do hope you'll come back. I rarely repeat guests. I think I've had 4 in 350 podcasts, but Sam, door's always going to be open for you. Um,
Thanks.
I want to thank you. And at the same time, I know as a presenter that you're not as fond with a thank. No, we're not doing presentations. But when you finish a presentation, the knee-jerk reaction for most people is to walk up to the mic and go, and thank you. Now, you're not going to get an argument from me, by the way. I have my own way of doing it, but I want to hear you feel this. So maybe not thank you. Why? And what do we put in its place?
Okay, so let's keep with these notes. Is over on the left, put passive close. And as you just said, the vast majority of people at the end of a communication say thank you. Thank you for listening. Or if you have any questions, please talk about a passive close. So here's a 60-second story, and then we'll unpack what to do on the right. Is that I was coaching a woman who was also going to be at the dolphin tank, which is kind of like a kinder, gentler version of the Shark Tank. And I said, we're going to give you a competitive edge because everyone else is going to run overtime and they're going to rush and blush, or they're just going to say thank you. So here's what you're going to say. And she said, once again, I'm Marcia. I'm the one with the white spiky hair. At our next break, I'm going to be out in the lobby at our booth. If you would like to have a product demonstration, if you'd like to talk with our CFO about our finances, or if you'd like to talk with our CMO about how we're going to scale visibility through our social media, please come out and talk with us. Once again, I'm Marcia with the white spiky hair. I look forward to seeing you. Guess who is surrounded by people at the next break?
Yeah.
So here are the 3 steps. Say your name with a pause and a punch. Because if I say my name is Sam Horn. If we put our 2 names together, people don't get it. And if they don't get it, they won't remember it and they won't walk up to us in the hall. So my name is pause, 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 Sam, pause, 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 punch, Horn, not downward inflection, which buries it. Then mention what you're wearing. I'm Sam Horn. I'm in the Monet scarf. I'm Tom. I'm in the green jacket. So they can pick you out in a sea of suits. Second step, say where and when they can find you. At lunch, are you going to be over in the table in the far hand right? Are you going to be back in Austin the first week of May? Are you going to be in your office from 2 to 4? So plant the actual action seed so they remember your name, they recognize you, and they know where they can find you. And then the third step, what are 3 reasons why they would want to continue the conversation? If you'd like a copy of that research that I mentioned in my presentation, if you'd like to, so what are 3 reasons that people would think, yes, I want to know more about that. I would like a copy of I would like more details about that. In 60 seconds, you can set up a proactive close instead of a passive close. So you're the one they remember. You're the one they want to follow up with. You're the one who's probably going to get the deal.
Right. The noise you were hearing, folks, is me scratching this down on a piece of paper. That's really good. First of all, I'm glad that we got past the thank you, which is just kind of everybody feels like they should do that. And we will, but maybe not the last words out of our mouth. I like what you're doing. I sort of separate. There's a keynote and there's a workshop. In a workshop, because typically mine are multi-day, or whenever I'm getting ready for lunch, I'm always thanking them for their questions to try to inspire more questions, but I'm not done yet. At the end, I'm with you. I'm typically, and I heard somebody say this once and I loved it, and I was a juggler, so I took this on as a juggler. They've always said, start with your second best trick and finish with your best trick. And so as a juggler, I began to sort of think that way. And so what is my best trick? And maybe it's a quote, or maybe it's a story, or maybe it's an analogy. But the piece that I love that you're doing, and I do it when I'm selling more, because a lot of salespeople, it's not one-on-one, there's a lot of people, there might be a family, is to sort of out the ask in the opening. The end, I'm going to be asking you, bump, 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 bump. So it's out there, it's on the table. There's no elephant in the room, it's there. And then almost like a comedian would do, the callback. We're going to call that back later on. But I like yours, and that's why I'm writing it down, because yours is a little bit more complete. It's a little bit more systematic, and I don't think I have to worry about which presentation I'm doing to plug that in. So once again, thank you for that, Sam Horn. I'm sorry, Sam Horn. I'm going to bring that name up. All right, Sam Horn. I got to wrap you up. Tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Well, it's real easy. You're welcome to go to my website. My TEDx talks and so forth are there at samhorn, SAMHORN.com. And I really hope that people will connect with me on LinkedIn, because my life is my lab and I like to ink it when I think it. And so like that American Idol show last night, in the middle of it, Gene Simmons was so brilliant that I was writing and I had a post up an hour later. So if people like these kinds of stories and then unpack steps, connect with me on LinkedIn. It'd be great to see you there.
Yeah, definitely do that. I connected with Sam and she's lightning fast. She'll be right on it. Trust me. Tung Fu, Pop, got your attention. The new one, Talking on Eggshells. And there's plenty more. As we said, TED Talks, Sam is all over the place. You're not going to have trouble finding her. Get on Amazon, grab one of those books and do what we always talk about on this particular show, which is finish it off. Read the book and write a 2-3 sentence review. We authors really do appreciate that. I know Sam does as well. And Sam, I am over the top grateful that we finally got to be able to do this. I just can't remember enjoying a podcast as much as I've enjoyed this one. And I don't remember taking as many notes either, but you instruct us to take notes. That's the Sam Horn way. I've seen it before. So thank you for getting us all focused there. Anyway, just thank you so much for being on the show. Really grateful.
Thank you. It's been a 1+1 combination. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Rob.
You bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.